Hey everybody, welcome to Chortle Games. My name is Steven.
And I'm Jake.
And it's the beginning of the month, which means, usually, that it's time to do another Forward Compatible. What Forward Compatible is this. It's a review series that we do here where we take a game that one of us has not played for at least 5 years, and we play through it again. We live stream our entire experience through it so you guys can follow along. And then at the end of the playthrough, we do a full review of it to see if it is forward compatible with who we are as gamers today. And this month, because it seemed fitting, there's this little game called Last of Us Part 2. You may have heard of it.
Never heard of that. What is that?
It's some game. It's a little indie title by Sony. Are you familiar with Sony?
Sony?
I believe. Sony, maybe?
Okay, yeah.
I don't know.
I think I've heard of them.
Little Japanese company. I hope they make it. We're doing Last of Us this month. And if you watch these normally, you may be wondering, why is Steven doing the introduction? Why is Jake over there as if he's about to be the one to talk for 30 minutes with few breaths? Because that's what I usually do. That is because we're doing things differently this month.
After doing 8 of these, I'm finally going to be part of a review.
and it all happened because of a technicality.
It all happened because I wanted to do this game last month as a refresher. I wanted to just spend my month of May playing the game and live streaming it every time I played it. And Steven was like, "Why don't we just do a forward compatible?" And I was like, "Well, okay, sure." So anyway, here we are.
According to the rules, I think it's been 2 years since I played it, two maybe 2.5, and because I want to stay true to the feel of this series, even though the games we've done recently have not been old titles at all. They've just fit that 5 minute or the 5 year. So I'm ineligible, but I will be involved with how we're doing this. But Jake is going to be the one playing it. So Jake, why don't you tell everybody about the last time you played? Like, how long ago was it that you played this game, and what's your general thoughts?
So, okay, well, first, Steven, you did an excellent job introing this, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
Last of Us, I did not play it originally when it came out on the PS3. I played the remaster when it came out on PS4, which was one of the first, PS4 games. It was basically a launch title. So, for whatever reason, I don't know what possessed me, but I played that game. I bought it one night on a weekend, probably a Friday night at like 7 p.m. or something like that. And I started. And the opening scenes of that game, to broadly paint a picture, it's a zombie apocalypse game where there's this disease that breaks out that basically turns people into these fungus monster zombies called clickers. And so the first chapter of that game is kind of when that broke out. And so you play as this young girl. I don't even remember her name. She's Sarah, thank you. I was like, she's such an important character. But anyway, you're playing as Sarah, and you're watching certain things start to happen, and you're very confused, and you're looking for your dad, Joel. You finally link up with your dad, and you're trying to escape with your dad and your uncle, and y'all get stopped at the border by this border control guy, and he ends up shooting Sarah, and so Joel loses his only daughter right at the start of this catastrophe, and that was the hook, and they yanked it back, and I was hooked, and I was in, and I played the entire game in one sitting, including DLC. I played through all of it in one sitting.
And to speak on that, that's what you're doing again.
And we're doing it again. So I felt like the only way we could review this is how I did it originally. So this...
You gotta recreate the conditions of the first playthrough. Gotta recreate the
conditions of the first playthrough. I gotta be exhausted, the whole 9 yards. No, but so actually, seriously, normally this would be a month-long event that we do. We live stream all month long and then put out a review later. This month, or for this game, we are doing one playthrough, one maybe two live streams on a Friday and Saturday night, this Friday and Saturday night, so June 5th and June 6th. We are going to play through the game in practically one sitting. We may break between Friday and Saturday, or we may just push through and go all the way through. We're not entirely sure. We got to see how that's all going to work out. But we're basically doing it in one go, kind of like I did back then. But anyway, all that to say, what I remember about this game is the story was so engaging and so intense, and I could not put it down. I had to see this story through. I had to see where it went and what happened next. I remember, just to tiptoe into spoiler territories. I don't want to be too spoilery with this. Obviously, we're going to be playing this game, so if you watch later, there are going to be spoilers for the game. But what I remember most about the story is how it ends. And I don't part of the reason why I want to replay this is going into part 2. There are characters who I just don't remember. Like, I vaguely remember who they are, but I don't really remember if they're supposed to be alive. I don't remember what left off with them. I just remember how the story ended, and just what an intense moment it was at the last 2 seconds of the game.
It was one of the, in my opinion, one of the most unique and fitting ways they could have ended that game. You don't really, you expect it, but when you think about it, you realize I kind of expected that to happen, but I didn't realize how big of a deal it is.
Right.
It had huge repercussions, and that ending sticks with me. At the beginning and end of Last of Us, I feel you. They are some of the strongest that we've had in the industry in a long time.
Yeah, and we always talk about this game as this is how to do storytelling in games, right? We always point back to Last of Us as a prime example of storytelling in games. Now we have things like God of War, and we've got, I think the Uncharted series is another one that's a great example of storytelling in games.
Yeah, and we mentioned how Last of Us kind of was the innovator when it comes to telling those stories, because you say that you don't remember specific characters, you may not remember specific beats, but you remember the story being so impactful because the emotion.
Right, exactly.
Last of Us handled that emotion so much to where it immediately built that connection, and then it just kept you the whole time. You were invested because you felt with and for these characters.
Exactly, yeah.
And I feel like so many games have taken from that since then.
Yeah. So I'm excited to replay through the story and kind of re-feel those beats again. I hope it is still as emotionally impactful, because obviously, I don't know if everyone feels this way, but when I watch through a movie, if there was something I wasn't expecting, or there's a big plot twist, that twist never hits the same, right? Because you know about it. And so it's interesting to watch things again, because you start to see those threads of that's where I should have seen that coming, that sort of thing. So I'm excited to play through and see if there's any, I don't know, if I start to see the narrative more clearly playing through it again, but I don't know. As far as go ahead. I
hope that you'll be able to do that, because for me, I had a unique situation where, this is just how I am. I'm always late to every big thing. So Last of Us, for example, I played it way late, 4 years after the game had come out. And I knew how the game ended. I had seen my brother play through the beginning part with Sarah. I had heard, I had everything but the context of what happens in the game, because just people talked about it so much. And so it kind of worked in my favor a little bit, because I was able to knowing what was going to happen relatively helped me experience the narrative a little bit more to where I got to see how like it was like having a behind the scenes look.
Right.
Like watching a movie like Spider-Man Far From Home, how like when you find out, spoilers for Spider-Man Far From Home, you find out that Mysterio was a villain the whole time. You
Right.
watch back and you kind of see, oh, was he a hologram here? Like you kind of see like where
you see
what
him
they
behind
do
the scenes, and he's an extra in the background in certain shots.
Right,
So.
like stuff like that. It's interesting to what I got to do when I played it, because I was engaged, but I was engaged further back to where I saw the whole picture unfolding, rather than just being so sucked into where I was there with the characters moment to moment, where I didn't know what was coming next, and I was just terrified for their lives.
Right.
So I really hope that you'll be able to see that as well, where it's less about just being so sucked in that you have no peripheral, to where you'll be able to just be like, oh, this is like with later, or that's a callback to earlier and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's gonna be great. To talk about gameplay, because that's a big part of this is, do games are they so annoying gameplay wise that they're just not fun? They're not forward compatible anymore. I don't really remember much about the gameplay. I know that Ellie had a bow or gets a bow at some point. I don't even remember if Joel used a bow. I assume he did. But so I love bow gameplay, so I'm excited about that, right?
If I had taken bets on the recording of this forward compatible, I just would have won $1 million. 'Cause I knew going into this, it was just be like, Jake is going to mention, as soon as the gameplay starts, he's going to mention bow, and that's all he's going to remember about the gameplay.
So yeah, I remember that Ellie had a bow. I assume Joel did, and that you got to use his bow. Anyway, I don't know. I'm excited. I like zombie kind of games where you're, and I think Last of Us took an interesting turn with that. With these clickers, they can't see, they're blind, so they can only respond to noise. So I do remember that the game is almost segregated a lot of, you have clicker missions where you're in a tunnel and you're mostly avoiding clickers, and then there are some levels where you're only fighting people, and so you're kind of having to do that, which I'm interested to see if that really does hold true when I get back into it, because that's how I remember it. And again, that's what this preview is all about us, how we remember the game versus once we get into it. I feel like it was very much you're either fighting clickers or you're fighting people, which I think is, if that does hold up, that's going to be interesting about Last of Us Part 2, because they are very much blending those two factions together. So I'm excited to see how that all blends together in my mind. But anyway, I don't remember the gameplay being bad or being annoying anywhere. I don't know that I don't think I was just like, oh man, the gameplay. Like if you had asked me about this right after playing it, I don't know if I would have been like, oh man, that bow combat was great, I feel like it was adequate, but I don't know that it was just amazing or anything. So I'm excited to see if I end up enjoying it. If I end up coming out of it thinking, oh yeah, the gameplay was really good. But
I feel like that I remember a significant amount of the gameplay, and I feel like that may have been another one of those behind the curtain kind of things, to where I was able to appreciate the subtleties and the nuance in the game. And so I think that you will probably walk away from this remembering a lot more of the gameplay, which will help you in Last of Us 2, because you'll probably, like, going into Last of Us 2, if they've carried over enough mechanics, you'll probably go in with a good bit of an edge.
A little bit of practice in there. Yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't expect, I think, I always ask you, like, what's your expectation? I expect to go into this and come out of it having enjoyed the gameplay more than I probably remember. Because the first time playing through it, I was so impressed by the story and the atmosphere and the world they were telling. This time, knowing that, and obviously wanting to pay attention and really break down into that, but this time I know all of that. So what am I going to notice now that I'm really looking at the details? Because, and Naughty Dog and Sony in general is so good about the details, and like details of animation and like how different things interact with each other. So I'm going in expecting to be pleasantly surprised at how well that holds up. But I could be totally wrong. Totally wrong.
Now I have to be this guy because this is just my personality. But what are you expecting or anticipating on a negative side?
I think I'm gonna
not enough bow gameplay.
No. I think honestly, what I'm gonna feel negatively about is it being too long, which I know is a weird thing to say, but that's the only thing I really remember having a negative feeling of it coming out of it. And again, the conditions of me playing it all at once probably led to some of that. But I do feel like, and again, this is pulling from memory. I haven't played this game since that one night that I just played it all in one sitting. I feel like there were a lot of filler episodes, if you will. And normally I'm all about filler because I want as much as you can, get out of it. But I do remember feeling like, okay, can we get to the hospital, right? Can we get to the Fireflies and just let's move this story along. Like I'm tired of getting all these roadblocks and Joel just about died. Why the heck? I'm so close. Like, I feel like that's maybe going to be a negative. The only other negative I can think of is the gameplay turning sour on me somehow. I'm not expecting it, but that might be a negative. But I don't know. That's the only thing I can really think of that I would probably be negative on throughout the whole thing.
So when I normally do these forward compatibles, these previews, one of the things that helps me a lot is that while talking about a game, I'm able to structure in my head what to look for the script. Just for the sake of what are important questions that people may have of whether or not this game is relevant or should be played today. And while that probably sounds like a dumb question to ask that about Last of Us, like we said, this is mainly just because I'm ready to experience this game again. Jake's ready to experience this game again. So it fit, and I just want to talk about this game again.
Right.
And listening to you talk about how you remember this game, it's really funny how even when I'm just having this discourse with you, I'm seeing the script and the things to look for fall in my head right now because the way you're talking about how you remember, it's just I don't know. I've got some funny things that I wish I could say right now, but I can't because I just want to see how they play out with you. Yeah, because a lot of it has to do with experiencing the game, and you said some things where it was just okay, that's interesting, and so we'll have to see if that comes up in the review. One of the things I am most excited about with this review, we've done 8 of these now, and we're actually, as of recording this, we still are. We might have just. No. We're still waiting on the review for Assassin's Creed Unity. Which I am hopefully going to do this week and knock out. But one of the things I'm most excited about is we've done 8 of these, and they've all been you live streaming and you playing the game, and then me watching and creating the actual review, putting it all together. But this time it's going to be me playing, you writing and kind of putting my thoughts and feelings into Word. And then we're both going to be a part of that VO that happens in the review, and then I'm going to put it all together. So, but we're going to be together while we're both playing. So we're going to be able to watch and make real good notes about, hey, this moment happened here, or hey, this glitch happened here. It's going to flow really well, I think. Microsoft, if you want, just go ahead and throw us a sponsorship, because I'm going to have my my Surface laptop in my lap for this entire thing, and if we have a camera on, you're gonna get 15 hours of straight
I really want to figure out a way that we can record the gameplay but have a camera on the stream, and I'm gonna look into that, and I gotta figure that out. So if you watch and we've got camera on, that'll be why. I may just say screw it and we just have it in the review anyway, but we'll see how that plays out. Anyway, okay. Did you have any other questions for me, Steven? This is normally the part where I'm like throwing last minute things that I hadn't thought about.
Yeah. I mean, was there anything else that stood out to you? Because you mentioned story, you mentioned some and the gameplay and how it didn't stand out because the story stood out too much. But were there any other, like, talking about the game over the past few minutes? Has there been anything that just, like, was there a light bulb over your head where you just were like, oh yeah, that you want to mention at all?
No,
Here?
there were two scenes. I think there's really just one scene that I remember that I know a lot of people always point to and talk about, but I don't remember the context of well enough to know why it's an emotional scene.
Can I guess which scene without providing context?
Go ahead.
The giraffe.
Yep. Yeah, the giraffe. Everyone always points to that scene as like, oh wow, that was such a beautiful moment, and like, oh man, that was great. And I'm just in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, okay, I kind of remember that happening, but like, why is that the moment that everyone points to? So I know Ellie goes and pets the giraffe and stuff, but I don't remember what the context was. Like, did we not think animals were alive? Is that what I was?
I am so glad that you just mentioned that, because I actually spoke to my wife about that a couple weeks ago. When I was doing one of my many rants about narrative structure, whatever stupid nerdy thing I talk about. But everyone watching this, I'm gonna post on Discord during the playthrough. I'm gonna be like, giraffe inbound, everybody come to the stream, and you can experience, because I think you're gonna get it. Okay. I really do.
I'm sure I got it in the moment. I have completely forgotten the context of why that was a cool moment. I do now that we're talking about it, I do vaguely. I'm just having like I'm getting wafts, of
yeah. It's
things.
Weird, isn't it?
It's weird. I vaguely remember being annoyed at. I don't know if you can really call it parkour, but I do vaguely remember being really annoyed.
Not the way they do it.
At having to find like ladders and move boxes and stuff to get Joel where I needed him to go. And I don't really remember how annoying that was, but that's just kind of wafting back to me now. So maybe that'll be a negative thing that I point out about the gameplay.
Let it flow out as it comes, because you need to go into this game with that, like, without the nostalgia goggles. Well, no, you do need to go in exactly with the nostalgia goggles, but like you need to be able to look for the good. You need to go in with the good and the bad, so that you can justify the bad or ground the good.
Yeah. I'm
so
vaguely
just let it flow through you.
So yeah.
Let it flow through you, Jake. Well, all right. So if you got nothing else to add,
I think that's it for me. I'm excited about this. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
I'm excited, if for no other reason. I mean, it could be any game, really. Like, and I'd be excited for this because it's a different way to do this format that we've been doing. And we tried to do this in December, but it just the timing just wasn't there. And so just the fact that we're going to be able to collaborate more directly with a review, we're going to be there together in the stream. I do better work in collaboration, and so I'm really excited to kind of be able to pick your brain. And kind of see how you react to things and kind of use that in the review. But
I'm going to feel like a lab rat. Steven's going to have his notebook and he's going to be watching me to see how I react to things.
I've already taken notes. This preview's given me a lot to work with.
Oh, man. I love it.
All right. Well, you want to close this out?
Well, sure. I'll close this off. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Forward Compatible's preview for Last of Us. I keep wanting to call it part 1. There's no part 1. It's just part 2's coming, Yeah. This is happening June 5th and 6th. We will be doing pretty much a full playthrough in 2 sittings. So be sure to tune in to that. It is about a 15 and a half to 16 hour game. Just trudging through the main story. I think it's 20 hours if you do DLC. We're not doing DLC. Unless we finish super early somehow and are like, hell, let's do the DLC. Anyway, I say all that to say, pop in, pop out, come hang out with us the whole time. this can be your refresher too. If you just want to refresh on Last of Us as a whole, this is a great time for that. Another part of this is we really take in your comments and your contributions in chat while we're playing. In the last review, we had several little pop-ups from comments about things that you guys pointed out. And sometimes it's stuff that me and Steven have already kind of internalized, but it's really good to hear from you guys and know, oh, hey, they're seeing this too. This is not just me thinking this way about this game.
It really helps having people be like, hey, this is how this scene spoke to me. Because, for example, Jake and I both could have completely missed the relevance of the giraffe.
Right.
And one of you could have been like, no. This is what it is.
Right.
And we could be like, oh my gosh, didn't even think about it that way. It helps us see from these different perspectives that allow us to really give the game the best, the most benefit of a doubt that we can. Because if a game does something clever and it just goes over our heads because we're too stupid, we need to try to at least
or too sleep deprived at this point.
Too sleep deprived
is what's going to happen. But anyway, it's going to be very exciting. It's going to be very fun. So June 5th and 6th, tune in, pop in and out, whatever you got to do. It's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, Steven, thank you for being here, analyzing me as my professor. I'm happy to be your lab rat this week. And we will see everyone Friday or Saturday, June 5th, 6th. Bye.
Bye.